So this is 2014 higher level. So it's a basketball backboard for a hoop. So apologies, my focus is until I have something drawn there. It's going to zoom in and out a little bit. So you'll see in this one for a higher level, we have 3 different angles here. We're actually given this angle here. We're not given this angle, but we can see this is 50 millimeters this way, 40 millimeters this way. Therefore, it must be a different angle. I'm going to position it somewhere here and hope that this view here won't get too much on top of this. First thing I need to do is figure out, well, what's the story with these degrees? So I'm given 110 degrees. Normally I'm given 120, and so you'll be able to figure it out from that. But what I want to do is I did my little bit of math up there. 110 minus 90, so I should put a minus mark, gives me 20. So that's basically what I'm going to set my adjustable set square to. So hopefully you can see that. That's set to 20 degrees. So I'm going to start off by drawing the X, Y, Z lines in the middle. Some of you might start drawing the triangle. Don't think it really matters. Okay, I'm going to draw it this way for this one anyway. So I'm going to try to keep this up. I'm hoping that it's not going to make any difference. And I'm just looking at this view here. This doesn't have anything sticking out, so I'm going to keep slightly more to the left. So I'll try this position, and then at the end I will mark what worked out. Okay, so this is still vertical, so I'm going to draw this like this. This is the angle that I know, and let me see, I'm just looking at where it's going to project up, so I want to actually move that up a bit, maybe about here. So I probably shouldn't have put that down as far. Okay, so, and again, if we check that there, that should give us the idea that it's correct. So hopefully that'll work out. So I'll just take my little bit of Tipex and just maybe mark this just for the sake of making it a little bit less confusing. So I'll check if this works, and I can give you the position at the end. Obviously, when you're doing this in an exam situation, you have a twice as big a page. You'll have an A2 page rather than an A3 page. Sorry, the focus there is refocusing, and the other side of it is you won't have this little graphic. You'll be working off the exam paper, so it won't be as bad. So I have that degree there. Now what we know basically is that we're meant about 50 millimeters here to find point A. So what I'll do with my green marker, to keep it the same color, I'm going to measure out 50 millimeters here. I'm just going to put a little dot, make that a little bit darker so that you can see it, and I'll bring this down and I'll mark that off that. So once I have that, I know that's my point, what they called A. And I'll just write the letter on it just so that you can see it. So what I know now basically is from A straight across to there will be 50, and we need to bring it further across and get another 40 across. So that would be 90 from A. And I'm marking point 90. And what I know now is that if I draw that back to that, that's giving me point B. And that's the other angle. So just be careful in this question. Sometimes people might think it's a diametric question, the two angles are the same. This angle and this angle, they're not. They're two different angles. So there was B. So I found A, I measured out 50 straight across. This is 40 straight across from the center, or you could say it's 90 from A. And what I want to do now is I want to draw vertical lines. Now if you look here, this line here is, sorry, not vertical lines, perpendicular lines, is perpendicular to the line coming out here from A. So that means I can use the set square this way. Okay, and I can then join, that gives me C, and I can then join that. The other way I should be able to draw this is that if I set my adjustable set square to the line, what do they call it, the line X. So if I set my set square to this, I should be able to draw that because that should be perpendicular there as well. But I'm just going to leave it as is for the minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this side because that's the angle. So this side here is the angle that I've already set my adjustable set square to. I'll need to reset it again to do the other side. So they used, what do they use, sort of a pinky line to bring it out. So I'll keep it the same. So bring that out. And we'll bring that out. So again, make sure your T-square is in tight. And that will help to fit it. So I'm just looking at how much this sticks out this way. But it looks that if I draw a line here, there should be a good bit of space. It shouldn't actually matter for these lines. It may come across this, but sure, that's just the way it's going to go. So we'll keep the colours consistent, and we're going to draw a green line around here. Okay, so I'll take my compass and I will bisect. So I'll set it over halfway. Now, what you'll notice here very clearly, what colour did they use? They used a pink for drawing the semicircle, is that this blue line does not hit in the middle. So when you're doing an ordinary level question, so far anyways, they've always given 60 degrees or equilateral triangles to start off with. So this, when this hit, it also matched the bisection. But at higher level, it won't. So that's why we need that bisection. So in order to find this point here, the point at which we draw the rectangle, right? So basically this point here, so that we can set up this view, we need to now extend this out. Okay, so we'll extend this on. And where that hits there, that's my point for these two blue lines. Okay, and that's basically the angle at which that elevation will be drawn. So now I can join that point there, and I can join this point to here. And we just extend it on because they extended on. So I think I'm finished with my 20 degrees for the minute until I start to project back. But for the minute I'm finished, and I want to draw all these lines parallel or perpendicular, at least the majority of them. There's one or two sloped edges on the. So I'm going to start with that. Now the first thing I'm going to look at is here. This is the center line. The center line lines up with this point. So if I'm just going to draw it lightly up the way just so, to make it a bit more obvious for you. So again, we need to look out for pointers. So long dash, short dash, long dash, probably up way too high in this case. But I now know half of this. So what I can do with my compass is I now can figure out, well, what's the full width of the basketball net. So the basketball net comes out as far as here. Okay, so that's the first bit. The second bit is, well, we know a 10 and a 40, so, and we know a 40 from the center. So we'll start with those. So if it's 40 from the center, it's 20 either side. So we'll measure out 20, and we'll measure out 20. And then we know we have a 10 and a 40 up here. So 10 and then a 40. And we'll use our adjustable set square. So something is a little bit off. Sorry, I just wasn't have had mine. I did it 100% correct. Okay, so may just be my teaspoon. So bring up this. These are my 40. Bring up this. Bring up this. I'll fix up that little bit with my tip X now in a second. So sorry, my adjustable set score is just a little bit off. Let me do that line. But you can see there I started to construct where the, I suppose the bit that you shoot at. I don't know exactly what it's called, the square that you shoot at. Usually try to get it into the net. So we'll heavy in these bits here like so. I'm happy with those. We're happy with my 40 mil. 40 mil. We're happy with my backboard part. I'm just trying to avoid the little bit of Tipex that I used so that it doesn't get on my marker. Okay. And then they found the center point, so we may as well mark that in too. It may be of use, I think it is, for the part C. Okay, and then they drew the radius. So the center point for the radius was here. So I'll just change to my black marker now, so that I can draw all that in one go. So I should touch both sides. And there we go. And there's this view done. Well, I still have to bring back some lines, but for the minute, I think we're happy enough with that. If you want, we can heavy point P. It's going to come of use. Right, and we're going to start doing the same on the other view, the same type of method. So what we need to do is we need to set our adjustable set square back to X. So it's not 20 degrees. It actually looks to me that it worked out around 25 degrees. It may not even be an exact degree. So we don't know that from this. We've figured it out by measuring out to 40. So we're going to take this set to the blue line, and again we're going to start projecting these out. Okay. We're going to pick a random distance. So I'm going to pick here. So just in case there's any confusion, this distance is completely random. Okay, I don't want to be too close to here that this wouldn't intersect across it, but that looks fine. I'm going to set our compass to over halfway. Sorry, I can't find my yellow marker just to keep things consistent, but I'll just use a red. You can see the lid of it, but I can't find the actual marker. So this can't be done at the same time as the start because these are two different angles. Sometimes you'll get a question and it can be, but in this case it can't. So there's my bisection, and again you can see the bisection doesn't line up with the line X coming out to meet it. And draw my semicircle. And then we'll join the corner. So they used a blue. Oh, sorry, let's extend this out first to make this. To find the exact point. So once I found this point here, I can join it to this view. And I can join it to this point, or sorry, to this point and that point. Okay, so we now have to draw the end view of this. Now this height, or this end view here, is basically just a line. So they're assuming that this basketball net has no thickness. In real life, obviously it would. This one looks to be made of a piece of plastic or something that's rounded. But they're saying, but basically we're going to give this no thickness. So that's why it just looks like a dark line. Sometimes it's hard to see the difference between the blue and the black line. So they give us the 10 and the 40. So they're the simple parts, and them points are going to be needed. So I'm going to mark them in just so that I can see them. So 10 and 40. So I'm going to need those 2 points. But in order for me to heavy the whole thing, I need to take, now it's, you need to be careful here, it's this distance here, it's not, well that would be the same as the radius. I was going to say it's not the same as the radius that we set it to, but actually it would be, because they use the same center point. Okay, so that distance there, that's the actual real height of it, and we'll mark that. Okay, and we'll heavy just that in. So hopefully you can see the difference between the blue and the black line, and there's my 10 and there's my 40. Okay, so we're now going to construct in 3D what is down here. Now, the easiest thing in this case is to start bringing down the points at this angle, because this is the one that I have. Okay, I'm actually going to split the curve in a second, so I'll come back and reset the two angles. But what I want to do here is bring this down the full way. I think this is going to go a bit onto this view, so, but it'll be fine. So the reason for that is so that I don't have to reset this. Now when I go this way, the most important thing that I do is not keep it at the same angle. I have to bring these down at the original 20-degree angle. So the big importance of this question is that you're using two different sides. You have to keep adjusting the adjustable set square to do both. So, oh no, that one point there is actually not of any real use. And I'll just bring down, I'll just do the corners for the minute. So what I've done, let's see if I call this A, B, C, D, E, and F. I brought down one from each. And if you think about them here, C and D are 0 height up. E and B were the 10 millimeters height up. And F are basically the 40 millimeters height. So this is A. A is the 40 millimeters height up. So we'll write A. B is here. C is here. So just be careful. Be careful not to get confused with the B that was originally there. D is here. E is here. And F I'd expect to be above itself somewhere there. Okay. So I'm going to take my black marker. I'm going to heavy them because A went to B, went to C, went to D, went to E, went to F. In this view, it must be the same in the 3D view. Okay, so if you've done it right and you've used your set squares right, these should end up on the ground on the blue line. These ones, B and E, should be level with each other, and most importantly, E and F and A and B should be vertical from each other. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the box in the middle. Okay, and then we look at how to do the curve. So we call this D, E, F, G, H. I'll skip I, J, and K because I can look like a wall. Okay, it can look like a line. So again, I'm going to bring these down this way. So I'm going to work from this side this time. Because it saves me going over to the other side and then having to come back. So they're sort of roughly brought down. Again, I have to look here. G is at the top, 40 mil, and H. And K and J are at the 10 mil above. K, sorry, and J. So again, when I flick this around, I have to reset my adjustable set square. Okay, so we shall... Oh, they're already brought down actually. Silly me. So G is there because they actually have to be on the same height. H is there. And did we bring this one down? K far enough? No, needs to go a little bit further. Although actually it should be straight below the other one, and J is there. So you can see my various points. And again, I'm going to draw the crosshairs. I'm going to use maybe a different colour of red because that point may be necessary. You'll see why in a second. Okay, so draw my crosshairs. So the last bit now that I have to do is basically have to get my curve. Okay, so it's up to yourselves how you split it. You could split into 60 and 30. I generally wouldn't. I generally take this distance and divide it roughly by 3. So, and I might use maybe a purple or something different for the curve. So this is measures out roughly 60 millimeters. Okay, so let me see. I'll try this purple. Maybe this one here might be too dark. It's sort of a picky purple. So there's a 20 and there's a 40, right? Okay, so I now need to set this back to this angle. Okay, so I'm going to label these. I'm going to call it, well, I have A already. I'm going to call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have F. So basically it's going to go to A to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to F. So what I'm going to do is set this back to the same angle that everything's being projected down at. And then I'm going to bring these down. So 1 is going to be somewhere there. 2 is going to be somewhere there, 3 is going to be somewhere there, 4 is going to be somewhere there, and 5 is going to be somewhere along that purple line. Okay, so the last thing that I need to do is, well, I need to go, well, what height was 1, 2, 3, and 4 for this view? 3 is handy. 3 is the very top. Okay, and the only reason I didn't bring that down was just to help to avoid a little bit of confusion. So 4 is this height. And that's also the height for 2, because they're the same distance out. And then 5 is this height. So basically 2 and 4 are this height, and 1 and 5 are this height. So the last thing I'll do is I'll take my adjustable set square and set it back to this angle here that all these will be projected down at. 1 and 5 will go across that, 2 and 4 will go across that, and 3. So again, I'll just carefully mark them. So where 1 and 1 crossed was basically this point. Let's see, I'll have to use a darker colour. I'll just use a black. Okay, 2 and 2 crosses this point. 3 and 3 crosses this point, which should be about right because it should be roughly perpendicular from there. 4 and 4 there, and 5 and 5. So if I want to call it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what I'll do now is I'll sketch that in. And there's my question, or that part of the question completed. So there's no thickness, so I don't actually have to add in any depth to it. Okay? So the last bit then, it says Draw the axonometric projection of a basketball in contact with the backboard at point P. The radius of the ball is 12. So this was the reason for this point here, point P. So what they're saying is a ball is touching at that, and they ask you to draw it, and I'm assuming we're going to have to draw it, the axonometric, so to draw it in all three views. So it says the radius is 12. So the first thing you could say, well, right, if it touches, if you wanted to draw this, there's no reason why you couldn't draw it in this view, straight off. So you could set your compass to 12. So again, if you're drawing relatively small radius circles, make sure that your 2 points are level. So 12 can be a difficult enough one to draw because it's on the smaller side. If you have a circle template alternatively, you could draw, but just make sure that you're looking at the number for number 24 with the circle template, because they tend to be in radiuses. That's the ball there. And what most people do is to draw the ball here as well, and then they forget about this view. You have to remember that when you're looking straight on, the ball will appear in the same position. But when you're here, the ball actually isn't going through this. It's actually just the far side of it is touching this. And the easiest way to explain that is in this view. If I was to draw the ball here, I wouldn't draw it as if it's going through. I would draw it here as if it's touching at one point. So what point is it touching at? Well, if the backboard is 40 mil, it must be touching halfway down, because we split that in half. So we'll measure 20. The other alternative way I could have done this is I could project this back up here, and that would also be it. But this is a slightly quicker way. So I'm going to set my adjustable set square to this angle, and I'm going to draw a line out here. Doesn't matter the distance for the minute. I have this set to 12. So there is what the ball would look like when it hits, if it hit perfectly in that center. Okay, so what I need to do now is, I should have actually clearly marked the center of my, that's it there. I need to bring down that point. So let's see if a different color that I haven't used is orange. So again, it's critical with these questions that you keep getting used to adjusting back. It's very, very simple to forget to adjust back the angle to whichever one it was at. So that's that one. That's this point projected down. So there we go. Oh, sorry. I'm just after saying exactly what was the opposite to what I did, and I was actually wondering because it didn't go through point P. I forgot to adjust it back to this angle. Yeah, that makes more sense, because it should actually go through that point there. Okay, so I made a mistake there, and that I forgot to set, but I suppose this is a good example of how I can forget just as easily as you. So there's my point, and there's that. So hopefully that shows up. So basically the orange point, if I was correct, should have came through the center point here, and that's basically the basketball. Okay, and then I suppose we could lighten that in, and we could Tipp-Ex it out, but I'll leave it as that so that you can see it. So that's the question done. That's all the 3 bits done, A, B and C. Put your name and date on it, and that's pretty much as complicated as it gets, apart from putting in a bit of depth on it. The only other thing really that they can ask you is about, so that you have to locate exactly where a curve starts, which again doesn't happen in this case because we have no depth. And the other thing that can happen is they can ask different parts C. So you'll see there's different ones like kicking a football and stuff like that.